This video is brought to you by CuriosityStream, and now comes with Nebula, the service made by independent creators like myself. 1 year after the console release, we finally get the next Rockstar masterpiece on PC, and I'm sure the extra year was put to good use. Oh no! Two things. One, the initial release of Red Dead Redemption 2 had some technical issues. I can't help you there, I could not get past this error for like a week on most of my PCs. 2. This game seems to be designed for future GPUs and PCs, as it can be quite heavy, and that makes it interesting if you, like me, want to see what it takes to run it on hardware that is dramatically under its minimum requirements, no matter what it takes. Welcome to the Low Spec Gamer. This video has been a bit of an adventure to create, so let's get started. We're going to start from the lowest usual possible settings. Worth noting is that this game has a lot of settings, and you might have to reduce them all to a minimum manually, because the auto preset system tends to fail massively when using a GPU outside their minimum requirements. But then, there is more that you can do. The configuration file is located in your Rockstar folder in the document folder, as shown on screen, and is called system.xml and can be opened with Notepad++. Let's get the minor stuff out of the way first. On the lowest settings, water lighting quality is set to medium but can be changed to a low preset very easily. This is reflected in the settings screen as a custom setting. You can also disable screen space water reflections. This is very subtle, but usually you will see how objects that are on the visual field will create additional reflections that vanish once those objects are out of screen. This extra effect can be disabled by setting a variable to false. It will still do reflections, just less computationally expensive ones. Now, this game uses a newer version of the same engine used by GTA 5, but instead of assigning a lot of the variables directly like they used to do in GTA, they load the settings through some invisible presets, meaning that there's a lot, like shadows, that we won't be able to modify until we have proper modding tools. But they're still LOD scalars, even if they work a little bit different. On GTA 5, lowering the values of the LOD scalars will allow you to force low poly models of different objects and play around with the draw distance of the game. You can do the same on Red Dead Redemption 2, but a consideration is needed. If you, for any reason, use custom LODs, do not try to run the benchmark. It sees this sort of custom changes as unsafe settings and reverts them to whatever is the default. I have not found how to get the settings to work on the benchmark tool just yet. You have to jump straight into single player or multiplayer. Let me show you what is likely the only useful one. Grass LOD controls the draw distance of grass, and its normal lowest value seems to be loaded from 0 to minus 0.9. Set it to -1 though, and a lot of the grass is gone. Very useful. Not as useful as vehicle LOD bias, which on this game controls wagons, and it's set to its usual lowest value from 0 to minus 0.9. Once again, -1 just disables the rendering of vehicles. The vehicles are still there, they're just mostly invisible. Do you think this is useless and ruins the game? You have seen nothing. Just like in GTA 5, Pet LOD bias controls when full detail models of characters are loaded. And again, when you hit -1, the lowest poly models are forced everywhere. This affects the players, NPCs, it even affects the horses, and is applied mostly outside cutscenes. You might have seen this being used on a recent GameSpot video, but they don't really explain how to achieve it, and they kinda show the ground settings. But now, you know. And you likely hate it. And you're ready to write me a comment complaining about this video. Well, here is something that GameSpot didn't do that is not going to change your mind. LOD scale on this game works like Kill LOD scale in GTA 5 and controls general draw distance. The lowest value allowed by the game is 0.75, and less than that crashes the game, except when you hit -1, and then this happens. You just, the game just gives up and stops rendering. It's all gone, all of it. Is this what you wanted? Are you happy now? Let's talk about performance. This is a game that runs by default using the Vulkan Rendering API, which makes me very happy since it tends to perform better than DirectX 12 on modern entry-level hardware. Maybe this is because the game is also on Stadia, which uses Vulkan. While there's a new super cheap Athlon coming soon, for the moment the good old Athlon 200 GE is all I have with its integrated Vega 3 graphics, so I took it for one of the last tests I will do on it before replacing it. This is the game on the lowest settings and all tweaks applied except for the extreme LOD scale change that de-renders everything, at 720p with a 50% resolution scaler. Clearly the game was not designed to work on this sort of low resolutions, let alone at this low graphics, but the results are nonetheless amusing. I mentioned before how the game loads full detailed models on cutscenes, but this rule does not seem to be applied always in predictable ways, so during my test I often run into these absolutely bizarre scenarios where only one character remains in super low poly mode, almost like an unlockable skin. Sometimes the complete contrary happens, and on cutscenes only the player remains in full detail while everyone else is a faceless blob. And once the cutscene is over, you can see the exact moment it goes back to its low spec state. Interestingly enough, on these extreme conditions, the game was surprisingly playable. The game mostly gets close to a playable 30 FPS even during combat, and for this game, this is more than I expected. Now, if anyone can actually shot this effectively with this low resolution is another matter entirely. Ideally, I wish I could present you with settings that will help performance without being this destructive, but for most settings, it does not seem to be entirely possible yet. Maybe as we get modding tools and crack this game open, we can figure out ways to tweaking LOD or removing shadows in ways that are more useful for most of you and not as destructive. We will see. In the meantime, if good stories about cowboys and horses get you interested, then you might be surprised to discover that often after wars or development, lots of horses that were no longer needed were released into the wild. Many of them died, some survived and became herds of wild horses that have survived in some really crazy places. For example, after the First World War, not long after the events of Red Dead Redemption 2, lots of war horses were released on the Namib Desert in southern Africa and against all odds managed to survive. Herds of wild horses still roam the desert. I learned of this fascinating story from Africa's Wild West, Stallions of the Namib Desert, a beautiful, excellently filmed documentary about their story on CuriosityStream, this video sponsor. CuriosityStream is a streaming service for high-quality documentaries by the founders of Discovery Channel that works in browsers, phones, smart TVs, and that feeds your desire to explore and be fascinated. And this time there is something special. YouTube continues being a bit of a delicate space to work with for certain types of content, so several creators that you might have heard before, including myself, joined forces to experiment with our own streaming service for our wilder ideas. We have been slowly uploading our backlog there, but there have already been some cool original ideas like Working Titles, a series about the intros of TV shows, narrated by people like Sage from Just Right, Cinema Wins, Captain Midnight, Patrick Willems, and there's a lot of stuff in there. I'm trying to convince them that we should also include video games, so you should watch so I can make my case. How? Well, CuriosityStream is helping us out and currently doing a bundle. If you get a CuriosityStream subscription from the link down below, now you get Nebula for free for 31 days, and then both CuriosityStream and Nebula together for just $2.99 a month. This is nothing to just improve your media diet and support the efforts of independent creators. Thank you to CuriosityStream for supporting this video and you for watching.